I thought I'd start on the one of the better walnut staves, and if I was going to do that, I thought I should show what it was like in the first place. So you can see the term better isn't necessarily synonymous with good. It gives you an idea how much bend there is in it. So there's a hell of a lot of reflex. And there's also this bit of twist at this end. Well, it's sort of, if we line up the bark as flat, then it shows as a sideways bend. Or if we line the curve up straight, it shows as a slope, like a twist. So and that's the big problem with evaluating something that's got no straight lines in it. You know, where's your frame of reference? But if we were trying to make a flight bow, I'd take the underbark surface as the back of the bow. So I'd actually have it like that, which would mean I'm correcting some sideways bend. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can split this bark off. I've got like a plastering knife, putty knife, whatever you want to call it, under there, and it's lifting. So perhaps if I get a wedge under there, a little offcut from where I've cut the splices, give that a tap, see if it'll. Yeah, that's popped one bit off. If I carry on like that, that'll be a lot easier than trying to take it off with a door knife and risking slicing into the back. It's quite funny looking stuff. And bark's a strange material. I was just about to say it's quite sort of corky, but of course cork is just the bark of a cork oak, isn't it? So anyway, never know, I might find a use for that. Right, let me get a piece of walnut. I've got the bark all off. Some of it just pinged off using my putty knife, but I found actually the draw knife did just sort of wedge itself under there and pop it off nicely, so I was using it more as a wedge than a knife. But anyway, that's pretty clean now, and that gives you a nice comparison of this stave alongside the bow from the other one, so you can see how much reflex I had to sort of steam out. It also gives you an idea of where I'll sit the bow in this new stave, because this curls up sharply. That's where it was moving into the root of the base of the tree. The ground was probably about here somewhere, so I'll probably cut it off about there and maybe here. I'll leave it a little longer than the first bow, and then think about roughing it out. You know, I've roughed that out on the bandsaw now, and it's a bit sort of twist in the limbs. But something I do, or I've done on this one to try and make sure I didn't mess up cutting the thickness, is I use this wooden block. So what I'll do is I'll hold the block there as I'm pushing the stave through the bandsaw, so it just stops me, twisting or going out of kilter. But because it's not fixed rest, I can move it in and out as needs be. So it's just like a movable guide, but it's just helping me keep the back of the bow vertical, to the table of the saw. It's just a block of wood that I've sawn on the bandsaw, so I know it's at 90 degrees to the table, parallel with the blade, whichever way you look at it. Just a handy hint. I've roughed it out on the bandsaw, so in terms of thickness and a bit of taper, trying to retain maximum width. That gives you an idea of how much sideways bend and twist we've got in this limb. And also what I've done is I've gripped it in the vise with the grip pretty level, so you can see which limb has actually got the most reflex in it, and I think it's this limb here. So this is the one that needs all the work. So if I steam it round about here, well, the grip section and this end, I'll probably have to do it in two bits. Take some of the deflex out of this and maybe try and correct some of the twist as well. And then the sideways bend will probably be done back at the grip. I've left a bit of extra width where this funny little knot is, just a bit of a bulge there. Should have left a bit more there, but I think that was the narrowest part of the stave, if you like. That was the limit to how wide the bow could be. If I left it wider here, then it would look stupidly narrow there, so I've sort of blended in the taper from the tip, reasonable tip width, out to that what was a narrow point. This was just roughed wider in the first place. That limb's quite a bit wider, but we'll see. I've just marked it fairly symmetrically now, and I always say don't cut the grip out early, but the reason I've done that is to allow the sideways bend. It's like all these sort of rules and advice, you have to take what suits the bit of wood you've got. Right, I've set up to steam the second walnut stave. It's a bit cluttered, but hopefully you can see. Here's the end I'm going to bend. I've got the back end of it clamped up nicely flat and straight, and that's the key. Do your preparation, get one end nice and solidly mounted up. I've got it spaced away from the jig with some blocks to give me room to bend it, all nicely clamped up. Steam going into my bit of steam pipe. On this one, what I'm going to try and do is bring the limb down to take out some of that reflex, across that way to take out the sideways bend, and using my magic bow limb spanner take the twist out of it all at the same time, which is a bit optimistic, but it gives me something to do, doesn't it? Normally I'd probably correct the sideways bend first, then the reflex, or round the other way, you know, do it as two individual corrections, but I'll just see if I can do them all. What I have done, you can't see it because it's hidden in there, is same as on the previous one. I've narrowed it at the grip, which should encourage it to bend sideways, and hopefully I'll get some of the twist out there as well. Most of the bend and the trouble does seem to be in this region. I don't mind if I have a bit of reflex left. What I'll possibly aim for on this one is I might make it a whisker longer and a whisker heavier. I might maybe aim for see if I can get a 50-pound flight bow out of it. Maybe even cut it away so it's near centre shot. That's had an hour with the steam going. I've just turned it off, and my twisting lever I've pulled down and tucked under the edge of the bench. I've clamped this way to pull out the sideways bend, and I've pulled it down and clamped it this way to take out some of that reflex. So I've left a bit. Hopefully you can see that. So yeah, I'll leave that to the morning. It's now the next day, and I'll take the clamps off and we'll see how it moves. Let's take this one off first. Very little happening there. Oh, a cat's just ran through. Yeah, take that one off. It's not moved much at all. Now we'll look at the twist. If I pull it out from under the bench. Oh, there we are. That twist has stayed. It stayed very much set. as it was clamped up. Quite impressed with that. I mean, it may well relax with a bit of time. Right, I'll get all those clamps off and start the video again. Right, so there we are, having done multiple corrections all in one go. That looks pretty good. We've got a bit of a, there's a bit of a dip there. I think that there's probably some vague reason for that. Could just be bad sawing out by me in the first place, or where it was roughed out initially, and the extra width there could be for that knot, or it could, you know, could just be roughing out error. This limb is skinnier than the other one. That gives you an idea of the amount of reflex. We've got quite a lot there, but it's a lot more even now. Let's stick it on the ground. Yeah, if I just put it on the ground, just about get 4 fingers under there. So yeah, got a fair amount of reflex to play with. You can actually see how most of the bending's done where it was steamed there. So there's a bit of a sort of kink here, but compared with how it was, that's very nice. I'll take that.